Um, Again, I'm delighted to be here to see you all and share some of the knowledge with everybody. Today's talk is going to be about family relationships, dealing with successes and setbacks. Um, Speaking of setbacks, recently we heard the news from Europe that there is a new law that they passed about religious symbols, right? Well, in response to that, I have my own law now for all my talks. If anybody is wearing religious symbols, you're more than welcome to attend my talks and attend this community. We're not Europeans, right? So Alhamdulillah, Islam allows diversity. We are not Europeans. We're not in Europe. We're not in Europe. Yeah. So, so in response to that, I came with that new law for myself. Um, so in regards to, so that's relating to the setbacks that we dealt with. So if you think about relationships in terms of successes and setbacks, it's all related about news, really. How the success comes either from ourselves or from the people around us through news. We hear news from relatives. We hear news from neighbors. We hear news from co-workers, and all the levels of friendships that we have or relationship that we have within the family. So therefore, so there are good news and there are bad news. The good news is really that relates to successes, and the bad news relates to setbacks. So which one do you think that we tend to, or we usually, or love to hear about the most? Good news or bad news? Anybody says good news, raise your hand. And anybody says bad news, raise your hand. Do we love to hear bad news or good news? Actually, so everybody, how anybody hears, listens or watches the news? Raise your hand if you watch the news. And if you don't watch news, like any news, like either TV or newspaper or online, you don't watch any news. Raise your hand if you don't watch any news. Only two. Oops, excuse me. So, okay, so we do watch some news. And if you look at the news, do you think it's more positive or negative? Negative. But we still watch the news. We may be here saying consciously this, we like to hear good news. That's what we love to hear. As a matter of fact, based on studies that were done, the majority of people tend to listen to bad news. They pay attention more to bad news. And it's a significant percentage, really, of the people. They focus on listening to bad news. And that's based on the study that were done on people. But why is that? Well, apparently bad news sell. So that's why, this is the psychology or the behavior behind us listening to the news is just something that we do unconsciously. And the news broadcasters and the channels, they use that to promote and make money for their network, for their channel, for their news outlet. And the more bad news they put, the more we tune in and listen to. I don't know if you heard there's like a few trials that were put totally, fully from beginning to end was on televised. Like in the 90s, there was O.J. Simpson about killing his wife. There's so many trials now. It's a trend that is happening. If you look at like YouTube's, the most watched videos are the ones that have a fail in it. somebody's being harmed or slipped or fell, or we think it's funny, but actually it's bad news that these things happening to some being in the middle of an event, or people are being harmed. But we see that, we watch it, we want to learn about that negative experience or that bad news happened. Anybody watched movies, or not movies but documentaries about the war in Iraq? Video clips. How many video clips that we clicked on YouTube about what's happening in Syria these days? Nobody's putting it in front of us on our TV, but we actually go and search for it, and we click, and we, even if it's now happening, on social media, on your phone or in your computer, you click on it because you want to see what's happening. So that natural or unconscious need that we have to watch bad things, it's there. We do want to see the good things, but we have a tendency to be more intrigued about watching the bad news, and that's based on the study. Anybody hasn't seen recent clips about Syria or what's happening in Yemen, for example? Anybody watched recent clips or video clips on YouTube? Nope, just nobody watched. On the news, about the latest news with North Korea, and anybody watched that? If anybody has a TV or a radio, internet, anybody has internet? Nobody has internet from the back. Okay, so there's someone. So the study found that we tend to listen to or watch or read newspapers, also negative news, for many reasons. The highlight is that we tend to watch it to reconfirm the negative or the bias that we have towards a certain thing. For example, when you hear something like Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah, when you hear news about a child was abandoned in a dumpster, we heard this recently, right? Or someone's daughter or or a girl was raped. When we look at this news, we look for connections for what we have internally as a bias. We tend to see, if they're bad people, bad things happen to them. If she doesn't have the hijab on, if she's dressed, less modestly, then bad things would happen to her. And you're thinking, yeah, you see, you're not doing the right thing. Look, well, this is what's going to happen to you. Oh, you're not protecting your purse. Well, that's what's going to happen to you. If you didn't put your seatbelt, you're going to be injured. You're going to have all these injuries from the accident. So we tend to watch just to see, subconsciously, how are we related to how bad these people are. And then we confirm or reconfirm this bias that we have with what these people are, how they're living their lives. Oh, they were drunk. Right? You see what happens when you get drunk? Bad things happen to you. So we tend to reconfirm the bias that we have. It could be a good bias, it could be a bad bias. But again, that's what the study found. Another thing, it makes us feel better about how bad our situation is. For example, got in an accident, was not so bad. You hear the news, big bus flipped over, 6 people, 10 people died. And maybe you were in a small accident. It's like, okay, so I'm in a bad situation. Got in an accident, but not as bad as being in that bus. So I'm not so bad. I'm okay. And many examples like that. Anybody can think of an example that well, I don't want you to kind of tell exactly, from internally within your family, but you can think of an example that that when you saw it, you felt bad. You were feeling bad about what the experience that you had. But when you experienced bad news, like for example, I've seen like students, when they don't do so good in an exam, they tend to ask their fellow students. When they find that everybody did bad, it's like, oh, I don't feel so bad. But it's bad news. It's really bad news. But we're seeing it as it's really good for us to know this bad news, because to see where we're ranking in this bad news. I always feel better when I'm in a line and someone else comes behind me. It's like I'm not the last. It feels good. You're not the worst. You're not the last one to be served. It feels good to be in a line and someone comes after you. And you wouldn't give up that spot for anything. If he tries to cut in front, it's like, hey, excuse me, no, I'm here first, right? So this is the main common, or the main two reasons why we tend to focus subconsciously on news. So where is this subconscious coming from? If you watched the last or the one before last talk that I did here, I presented I talked about the limbic system. And the limbic system in our brain is really the reward system, is how the brain works. The talk is online. You can look. It was about happiness. I think it's online. But today, it's a different part of our brain that we'll be talking about. It's called the amygdala, and it's the early warning system. This is a creation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created this inside us. And this is the part of our brain that gives us this interest or this drive to learn about the bad news, to give us this early warning thing. Oh, that person, when he got in the car accident and they died, they didn't have the seatbelt on, for example. Or the person had his child in front of him on a motorbike and the child died because he doesn't have a helmet. So these are early warning systems, and they would feel better. I was like, I have a helmet, I put a helmet on my child, and it makes us feel better. So this early warning system that we have in our brain is really what is making us to look for bad things to protect ourselves from these bad things to happen to us. So the amygdala demands attention to bad news. So we talked about happiness and how that happens. Now we talk about why do we look for bad things. It's not really to mock people, but it's actually a self-defense or self-preparation instinct that we have. You look at the newspaper. If you buy a newspaper, you walk through it, there's a lot of great news in it. But we look at the big bolded bad news happening. We read it. You're like, oh, this is happening. Oh, this is happening in Perak. Oh, what's happening in Perak? Or happening in such and such country, neighboring country, and so forth. So we tend to focus, again, unconsciously for a negative. Anybody reads the... well, I'm not going to go there. You don't have to admit to that. So the media takes advantage of this drive, this instinct that we have. We talk about how the media exposes sexual and things that are related to sex, but also they maximize on this natural instinct that we have. So we have a natural instinct about sex and sexual relationships. They maximize on that, but also they maximize on negative and bad news. If you open the news, when was the last time you opened the news and you saw something positive? News now becomes very default, and maybe that's why some of you that don't even watch news or don't even listen to news, because it's very associated to negative and bad things. But again, that's coming from, they've done the study, they've done the natural behavior of people, how they behave in terms of news, and how we focus as a human being on the negative news, because that's a natural instinct to protect ourselves. And they maximize on that. Actually, they have a slogan. They say, if it bleeds, it leads. The more graphic, the better it is. The more attention. And they give you a warning. This is graphical, beware, this is going to be a bad scene after this. But they put it anyway because they increase that in curiosity. It's like, how bad is it? I want to know how bad how bad am I? Or how bad is my situation? That's why 90% of the newspaper, television, is all negative. And that's because we pay attention to it. We watch it. And the more we watch it, the more they make money. So if we say that relationship comes from success and setbacks, and it's all coming from the surroundings, our surrounding, if we were to take it smaller, from the news to our community or our family, our extended family, it's a much smaller. So we get to we get to pay attention more on the events that are happening within our circle of friends, or circles of friends, or circles of family, the immediate family, the extended family, and so forth, or neighbors. So all these circles of news, if you want to call them, they have a relationship of some kind. And the relationship, to measure the strength of the relationship, we tend to measure it to see how close the family together. For example, if you were to have a favorite news channel or a favorite news source like BBC or CNN or whatever the case might be, what would it be, that strong preference for you to listen to that station, whether it's a radio station, TV station, or even a website link? You would usually go check on that, on the latest news, or economical, or it could be just any local or international news. You would have that connection. And if we were to take that at a smaller level and look at the surrounding environment for you and your family, you would see that there is this relationship is strong at some times, and it's not strong with some people, but it's not as strong with other people. And so for us to, or the question would be that for us to predict what part of the relationship that would give us a prediction that this relationship is a strong relationship or it's not a strong relationship. So the options that you have, and you need to help me with this one. So which one would predict the strength of a relationship? Is it how much the fighting and the arguing, or how little the fighting and the arguing that you have with your surrounding, with your friends, with your family? So, but that means does it mean that the more you fight, is it better, or the less you fight, is it better? So that's one. Option number 2, how to respond to events. How do you respond to events coming from the person that within your circle, family circle or friendship circle? In responding to the good news that they give you, or in responding to the bad news that they give you? Or is it the length of time it takes to make up after the arguing, after the bad news, and to be able to recover from that experiencing the bad or the... So which one would be the best indicator to say if this is strong or if this is good, then the relationship is strong? Which one would you pick? How many people would pick the first one? Fighting and arguing. The more you fight, the weaker the relationship, and the less you fight, the stronger the relationship. Yeah, 1. Is that a half? 2? Okay. Okay. So 2 feels that it's number 1. How about responding to event? How we respond to people's feedback and news telling us the good news and the bad news? How would that relate? If we were to respond, or if for example I give him, I give the brother, like I told him, like I got in a car accident. The way he responds, I got in a car accident, the way he responds determines how strong of a relationship that I have with the brother. Now, the better the response I get, the stronger the relationship. the worse the response I get, the worse the relationship. So how many people say that this is the predicting, or this is the best way to predict the strength of the relationship? Okay, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Now the last one. Let's say that I told him this and he didn't give me a good response. I got upset and I don't call him. I don't respond to his messages. I don't like him, right? I don't like what he did. Maybe I like him, but I don't like what he did. So I stay for a couple of days and then I get over it. Versus I stay a week or a month and I don't talk to him. And what's the sunnah? What's the sunnah? Speaking of which, if we want to give someone the silence treatment, not more than 3 days, right? If it's more than 3 days, it's considered a sin, right? It's considered to be a sin that I'm doing against him. So let's say that I go for a month. So that means that the longer I stay upset in this relationship, the worse the relationship. And the faster I recover, the better the relationship. Who says that this is a better indicator of defining my relationship with him? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so this is a majority. This is like the majority. Okay. So, okay. Well, the thing is that actually responding to events is what makes the relationship, what predicts the relationship, how we respond to events. Because if we respond to events positively, you don't have to reconciliate. You don't have to recover. You don't have to. And even if you were to recover quickly from a bad response, it doesn't mean the relationship is good. Maybe he's just, or she's, maybe you give a response to your spouse and he or she would accept your bad response, but the relationship is decreasing every time this happens. I'll give you more. I'll share more examples on that, inshallah. So studies show that how we respond to good and bad news when it comes from people within our circle or within our circles, that what predicts how strong or weak the relationship that we have with that person. So responding to events, whether it's good news or whether it's bad news. So I'm going to give you a little example of responding to good news. How many people have children? 1? How many people have children? 1, 2. Okay, 1, 2. Okay, everybody. Okay, good. I'm in the right cock, so that's good. So, bear with me here. These are shuffled. They're not in the right order. I think that's the order. Yeah. And then this and then this. Okay. So let's say you have a child and he came as very happy and showed you this. What would you say to him or her? I'm sorry? 20 years old child? Well, let's say, that's a very good question. Let's say a 4-year-old. A 4-year-old child. And he or she showed you, like, they're happy, they kind of like, here, look what I did. What would you tell him or her? Good job? Good? Beautiful? What are you thinking? You would ask what it means. Yeah, that's good. That's not bad. You say it's good, beautiful. What does it mean? Any other suggestions? What would you tell your child? What is it, right? What does it mean? What is this? They're like, oh, it's an apple. What do you say? Very good. But what do parents usually say? Really? Like, really? Are you serious? This is an apple? That's not how you draw an apple. I really don't have time now. Why don't you ask your mom? She knows how to draw apples. Or your father. He knows how to draw apples. He's an architect, or she's an architect. Let him show you how to draw an apple. And the child goes and it's like, oh, mommy, daddy, show me how to draw an apple. And they showed him how to draw an apple. And he comes back to you. It's like, hey, daddy, mommy, look what I did. This is an apple. This is what I know how to draw now, an apple. And you're thinking like, what? My wife doesn't know how to draw an apple? and you're thinking, no, let me show you how to draw an apple. And you draw an apple, perfect looking apple. And you're like thinking, that's what I want to show my child, to show the best looking apple. And you're like, this is how an apple looks like. Not like this. That doesn't look like an apple. This is an apple. Why don't you give it another try? And the child goes and give it another try, and he comes back with this. And he has a little green to it. So let me show it on the slides so you see. So he or she comes back with that. So he put a little leaf there, so that's an apple. And the father says, no, the apple is rounded. It's like a circle. And then the child comes back with this. And you're like, this is the flag of Japan. This is not an apple. And it's like, is it like this? So the child is really trying to figure out. But the child came, remember, when he first came, he was very excited, very happy. He drew that apple, and he was very happy. Now he's like trying to figure out, what am I missing? And as a matter of fact, some parents, even if the child drew an apple like this, even if the child drew an apple like this, they're saying, usually people draw the apple with a green leaf in it. This doesn't have a green, and there is no red, yellow, orange, and green apple in the same apple. This doesn't exist. Where did you get all these colors mixed up like that? And is this a flying apple? It's not sitting on a table. It's not in a basket. They try to focus on how they view the drawing of the apple. And then maybe the child comes back with something like this. And the parent would say, what? Yeah, it looks good. So you like green apples? Okay, fine. I'll go grab. From now on, I'll buy green apples. We're not gonna buy any more red apples. And this kind of, and even if the child, to bring in an apple that's, if let's say that 20-year-old child and he's graphic designer and all that, and he draw an apple, it's so perfectly digitized. Like, why is it so edgy? The apples are not edgy. They're not supposed to have these triangles. You like geometry, I understand, but this is an apple. They're missing the point. They keep missing the point. So how do we respond to good news? Again, remember the child came, was happy. So that was good news for who? For the child. With all these responses and all these possible responses, it's great. You say, it's great, it looks beautiful, but there's a leaf missing for this one. That's not a positive response, is it? So there are two factors when it comes down to responding to good news. So I'm going to have some examples on how to respond, how to positively and effectively respond to good news in a way that increases or improves the relationship. And the same thing, I'm going to do the same thing for the bad news. How do we respond to bad news and maintain or strengthen the relationship that we have with our family? I'm focusing on the family. So either it's an engaged or disengaged response, is a positive or a negative response. So this combination, so I'm putting him in a chart like this. So I'm going to go counterclockwise, if I can. So there's positive disengagement. The positive disengagement is positive response, but they're not engaged with the child. Let's focus and continue with the apple example. It's nice. And they maybe on the gadget, and the child's like, look what I did, it's beautiful. Or where's the first one? This one. It was, some people said it was nice, it was beautiful. Didn't without, and you're like looking at it, it's like, it looks nice, and then they go back to whatever they're doing. Or it's great. Oh, it's very cool. They come up with they dressed, they made the first match shirt and, skirt or shirt or pants, and they come out of their room, look what I dressed myself, and they're probably wearing purple with, I don't know, yellow or fluorescent green with socks that are not matching, and the buttons are messed and all that. And you would look at them, you try to be positive, like, oh, that looks nice, and then you look at something else. So the other type of response for good news is you look at the person, you look at the child, you look at your brother, your sister, your mother, your wife, your spouse, and then you look, you shake your head, and you continue doing what you were doing, whether it's news or watching soccer game, football. Sorry, I keep saying soccer. It's a bad habit. Or in the gadget, looking bad news, I guess, maybe watching or reading the news or playing games, and they would come with this great achievement that they've done, even though it might not look like an apple, but it's for them, it's a great thing. And I'm using this as a simple example. I mean, because it can be as simple and it can be a major event. Like, for example, if your child, a teenager, and getting ready for going to university, and failed, for example, physics. But that's bad news. Oh, they got an A in physics. And like, oh, great. And then you continue. So that's like a career make it or break it for the child. And you're like, the response is positive, but you're not there. Are you looking at it like, oh, okay. And you do continue with your stuff. Or say something, oh, you got he'd be like, oh, I got an A in physics. And it's like, great. Dinner's ready. You want to eat? You hungry? So again, digressing or diverting from the moment that they are experiencing. A negative engagement. So that was, the first one was the positive disengagement and the negative disengagement. And there's a negative engagement. And you would say something like, let's say your spouse says, I got promoted. I'm a senior manager now. And then the other spouse would say, well, does that mean we're not going to see you as much? Does that mean you're going to be traveling more? Are you sure you're ready for that? These kind of responses, you're disengaged and it's not positive at all. Are you sure you want to do this? You sure you're ready for it? Your boss know about this? Does your other friend know? I mean, you just start putting all these questions in the response. Are you sure? Do you think you deserve it? Because it sounds like maybe they didn't get the right picture. Maybe they misunderstood your accomplishments or whatever the case might be. And the last one is the positive engagement. When you give a positive answer, the spouse says, I got promoted. Like, that's great. Tell me more. What did your boss say? How did the conversation go? Tell me. How did it go? What does that mean? Can we celebrate? Can we go celebrate? How about we go celebrate tonight? We go for dinner. So you are there. You're supportive. You're engaged in in the new news that they have. You did great. You did great for yourself. That's excellent. It's a great achievement that you've done. And that's the positive engagement. So the first one, the positive disengagement, we call it as the understating phase or understating response. The negative disengagement is ignoring. It's an ignoring response. You're responding, but it's a very you're ignoring the bigger opportunity here about the relationship. And the negative engagement, it's a negative engagement. So basically, you're squashing them. You're squashing them you're squashing the good feeling of that moment. What do you mean this is an apple? This is not an apple. You're squashing the good feeling that that child had when they brought this picture to you. It's like, it's not an apple. It's red. That's the only thing that is common with an apple, but it's not an apple. Can you imagine if he drew it or she drew it in purple? It's like, that's not an apple. Purple is not a color of an apple. So again, that's squashing the relationship. You're literally squashing the relationship. And then the positive engagement is that when we are authentic, with our response, we're being authentic. So when we are understating the person, when our response is understating, the person feels embarrassed for sharing the news with you. When you tell them, oh, that's fine, and then you continue doing whatever you're doing, whether it's a gadget or talking on the phone, they feel embarrassed for sharing that with you. They feel unimportant because whatever you were doing before they interrupted you was more important. Like, yeah, that's nice. So you were saying what? And you're on the phone and continuing with that. When we give an ignoring response, the child, let's give that as an example, the child with the apple thing, they feel disappointed with you. When you give an ignoring response, you're looking at them and you just don't say anything, and you just tell them, are you husband? You know, yeah, whatever, okay, you're done, okay, are you hungry, want to eat, I packed your bags, you know, like your husband is getting ready to travel because this trip is going to be a wonderful opportunity for him, and he's saying, you know what, with this trip I can do this and that. Like, okay, I packed your bag. So what does the husband would feel? He'd feel disappointed with the wife. Would feel confused, like, oh, she says she loves me, but I'm sharing such a great thing for me in the future, an opportunity, but she's not showing me that she's excited about it. When you're squashing someone, they feel guilty. They feel guilty about what? They feel guilty as like, oh, I thought this was an apple. Oh, must have been, a bad thing that I did. What happened to there? And they feel disappointed with themselves because they overestimated how good that thing was. Because you squash how they saw that event. You destroyed it in their mind. And when you're authentic, they feel validated. They feel supported. So which one do you think is going to be the best response when it comes to positive news or good news? You need to be authentic, right? So what's the impact when we are authentic with our children, with our spouses, with our brothers, with our sisters, with our mothers, with our fathers, with our neighbors? And can you imagine your neighbor has coming home, parking his car next to yours, and damaged? Obviously they were in an accident. Like, yeah, it was a bad accident. I gotta go back to dinner. My family is waiting for me. Gotta go back. What kind of a relationship did you have with your neighbor? All right. So Islam talks about the relationships. Islam talks about how we need to be courteous with family and neighbors. The Prophet ﷺ, there's a hadith about how we take care of our neighbors. This is a practical way how we put this in practice to build that relationship. And that's what I like to come and talk about these things, because it gives us a practical way on how we show and how we build and strengthen. If it's already built, we strengthen this relationship we have with our neighbors, with our families, with our friends. We need to be authentic. When they come in, when the neighbor, I said that as a bad example, but as a bad news example. But if it's a good news example, the neighbor is celebrating, the child's graduation next door. Maybe they're a little bit loud. You learn the door is like, guys, can you keep it down? I know you're having your own little thing. It's okay. Just keep it down. You're not building that relationship. You're not sharing that good news with the neighbors. So when we are authentic, last time I spoke about the down spiral. When you are authentic in a positive relationship, you are putting that relationship in an up spiral. It's growing, it's strengthening, it's building more momentum, and it's spinning stronger. That's what happens when we are authentic, when we respond to positive news. Now, some of you said, well, I don't know how to be authentic. I don't know how to say that. It's not easy when I'm on the phone and my child comes and interrupts me and he shows me a scribble and I can tell him, oh, that looks great, what is it? How am I going to be able to do that? I don't know how to do that. Well, let me give you a tip. Fake it if you have to. If you don't know how to do it, fake it. Fake it and practice until it becomes natural. Because that is the least you can do right now. I mean, it's really, if you don't have it, don't use that as an excuse. I mean, you can register with us and we can help you work in the workshops that can help you. But for now, all you can do is, even if it doesn't come natural, fake it. Put that thought inside you and say it. The child or the spouse doesn't know what's inside you, or that you're really making it up and you're not feeling it. But when you do it over and over and you practice and you make this as the way to move forward, it becomes natural. It'll become the first thing comes out of your mouth. Same thing with the neighbors. They come in and they're like high-fiving each other. Like, hey guys, you look like you're having a good moment there, but can you move your car from the driveway? It's blocking my way. But there is no authenticity there. But when you're authentic with your neighbor, it's like, oh, you guys are great. Oh, tell me what happened. I would like to share with you. It's like, oh, wonderful. But that wouldn't be the first thing you would go to your neighbor, talk to. That would be a little bit weird. But I'm assuming that there's some kind of relationship with your neighbor. Otherwise, it might not come across. But it might not come across as a positive reaction from the neighbor. But you would need to have some kind of relationship with the neighbor. And then you would show interest to know about their good news. And then that would even strengthen what you had before with your neighbor. So fake it until you make it. Practice, practice, practice. Ask questions and ask people to help you do a research on how to do that. Now we'll talk about responding to bad news. Before I start that, any questions in this regard, what we spoke about so far? Any questions on good news and responding to good news? No? Any comments? Anything anybody wants to share? Okay. So responding to bad news, it's remember what we talked about for the good news was what was it? Let me go back and everybody can see it. So it's engaged and disengaged response, positive and negative. When it comes down to bad news, it's a bit different. It's also two variables, but it's emotional and factual versus disengaged and engaged. So emotional and disengaged, you get the emotion. So someone says, oh, your child comes and it's like, I failed physics, right? That's the bad news. And you get angry. It's like, well, you didn't study. Or you get angry about the exam or the person who gives the exam. Why do they have to put such difficult exams? Why are the exams so difficult? Or you show disappointment about the child. He failed or she failed the exam, or got in a car accident, or came and told you that dad, mom, or whatever, he's talking to his dad, talking to his mom. I'm addicted to something. I'm a smoker. I am addicted to pornography. I have bad habits. You get angry. You don't like that. So one way to show it is you get angry about what they did, you get disappointed about what they did. And there's the factual disengagement. I told you this will happen. Well, you hungry? You want to eat? So that's factual, but it disengaged with the person. It's like, yeah, told you this is going to happen. Yeah, let's go eat. Let's go find, let's call for delivery. or no response. Again, disengaged, and you're upset. You just don't want to say anything. You just walk away. Or saying that's what you get for leaving your purse in the car. People will break in the car and steal it. It's normal. That's what happens when you don't listen. That's very common. You want it bad, you got it bad. That's how bad you want it. You got it as bad as you wanted it. And there's the factual engaged. They tell you, my son, the neighbor is maybe telling you like, well, my son got in a car accident, he's in the hospital. It's like, oh yeah, it must have hurt. It's really bad, isn't it? He's in the intensive unit, intensive ICU. Like, yeah, I know that's pretty much how the accident was. In a motorbike and car hit him. Yeah. Is that what happened? Motorbikes are very dangerous, It's factual, but engaged, right? He's engaged in the conversation. He's recognizing all these things. Like, yeah, it happens. These things happen. Well, at least you have another child to help you. At least he's still alive, right? These are the responses that they're factual. Again, they're focusing on the fact. Well, he's still alive. Oh, he can still have. Well, maybe he lost a leg, right? Well, at least he has another leg. Facts, but there's no emotion. Engaged, but no emotion. And again, the best way is to be emotionally engaged with bad news. The neighbor comes and says, my son got in a car accident. The car hit him. He was driving a motorbike, was not wearing a helmet. All the negative things that could have been done. And he's in the ICU. And you would say something, I know what it's like. I know how you feel. Because I experienced this. Or I know someone who experienced this. I know how you feel. How can I help? And you can say something like, I really don't know what to say, but I'm really glad you told me. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't always have to know what to say. The easiest and the safest way to say, I really don't know what to say, but I'm really happy that you're sharing this with me. Same thing with your child. And to tell you that they're addicted to some kind of drug or something, don't flip. We don't need to flip over because of that. We need to be engaged. We need to show emotions because they are talking to us about it. Let's focus on the positive part, right? So the positive part is that they spoke to us. We don't know what to say. Just say, I don't know what to say, but I'm really happy that you came and talked to me about it. Again, building and focusing on building and strengthening the relationship with your children and your spouse or your neighbor, friends, and so forth. I've seen it and I've heard it so many times. And I want to talk a little bit more about the bad news. We tend to, when we see someone who's not, or when we interact with someone who is not on the same wavelength. Does that mean that makes sense? Everybody understand what that means? It's okay. So if they're not in the same wavelength as we are, whether how we understand the sunnah or how we implement the sunnah versus how they implement the sunnah, we tend to use that as an excuse, and we don't build that relationship for that example. And I say this, for example, as a very, very important thing that we need to do if you want to reach out. If you want to, reach out to the people you think that they're not following the sunnah. Be engaged with them. Have emotions with them. Don't focus on what they don't have. Being there, I've seen so many people who follow the sunnah and individuals, but their family is not following the sunnah. And because the family is not following the sunnah, or they're not praying, they focus on what they're not doing. Oh, you're not praying. You see what happens when you're not praying. Bad things happen to you. Oh, you didn't pray the duha. Oh, you see what happens. You're not praying the duha. The blessings of your day is all gone. That's why you got in an accident. Oh, you're a Christian. That's why bad things happen to Christians. Like, no, it doesn't have to be. It has nothing to do with that. This is an absolute event that had nothing to do with, it's not their choice. It's just that there's something that they're, experiencing. We can maximize and improve and build that relationship and strengthen it. Either we establish it, we build it, or we strengthen it. These are opportunities for us to reach out and be engaged and show, by showing emotions is like you show them that you care. You really care about what they're going through. So when it's emotional and disengaged, that's overreacting. When you're getting angry, oh, you didn't study, that's what happens. Oh, that's what happens, I'm very disappointed in you. Why did you do that? Or you get into that mode. You're overreacting. When it's factual and disengaging, it's ignoring. Again, you're ignoring the emotions that they're ignoring or even disconnecting, because this could be like the worst thing could happen for the relationship. The disconnect can grow and the gap can grow between the two. And if it's factual engagement, yeah, it's bad, these things happen, yeah, I totally understand, this is bad, and that's you wanted it your way and you had it your way. This is called sympathy. You're sympathizing with the person. At least you have another leg, right? We mentioned that. Or if someone lost a child, I mean, how awful would it be? Well, at least you have another child. That would be awful. That would be awful, right? But you'd be amazed how people, vary because they don't feel comfortable responding in these kind of situations, and they just, and the best way is to show empathy, and that's when you show emotional engagement. You're engaged, you show emotions, positive emotions, and you're supportive. So when you're overreacting, the other person shows or feels withdrawn. You withdrew, they will never talk to you about it again. Even if they became addicted to the worst thing, your child might not feel comfortable to ever talk to you again because of your response. Maybe you mean well. Maybe you just want to show them that how important it is, but that's how you show it to them. But the impact on your child for bad news, when they come to you with bad news, the impact is huge. They withdraw, they won't feel comfortable to talk to you again. They feel guilty that even they spoke to you about it. When you ignore them, they feel disappointed with you. They feel confused. It's pretty much the same things. Like, you say you love me, but I'm sharing this bad news, you're not helping me. How could that be? You care about me as a neighbor, and you're a Muslim, and I'm not, and Islam tells about, taking care of the neighbor, but you're not showing me that. I'm confused. Are you Muslim? Are you not Muslim? Or what's going on? And if you show sympathy, they feel denied. It's like, what am I not supposed to feel bad for my son to be in the hospital? Or even in jail. If can you imagine the neighbor would say that my son in jail. He's like, oh, what did he do? Who did he rob? Did he kill somebody? But he's in jail. He lost his son. Let's not focus on the act itself. Let's focus on the experience. And they would feel disappointed in themselves that they spoke to you about it, or they overreacted and talked to you about it. But and if you show empathy, they would feel validated. They would feel supported by yourself, and they feel comfortable to come to you and talk to you again. Any questions on this? How to respond to bad news? So how do we respond to news in general that comes from our circles? If it's good news, engaged positively. Yeah, engaged positively. And that's authentic. Be authentic with your engagement. Be authentic in that relationship. Focus on the relationship. And if it's bad news, show empathy. We need to show empathy. And that is showing engagement with emotion, not facts. Facts are there. It's not the focus of that moment. It's just that we need to focus on the emotion, because someone is sharing with you something bad. Focus on the emotion that they're going through. Are you okay? How can I help? So in regards to responding to good news versus bad news, which is we mentioned earlier, based on the study, they said that responding to news or responding to events is what makes or breaks, or what predicts the strength of a relationship. Now, that's responding to news. Now, which news is more effective? Which response would be more effective? The response to good news would be more effective as an indicator for understanding the strength of the relationship, or is it the bad news? How do we respond to bad news is the indicator? What do you guys think? I'm sorry? Bad news. Anybody says bad news? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. And good news. How many people say it's good news? Minority is good news. Can I ask, why do you guys think it's good news? Yeah, can you say something? Can you tell me? And what is it about that good news you're telling me and my response, how my response is really a predictor? And what's wrong with doing the same thing with negative news or bad news? You're saying like if it's bad news, then whether you're there or not, it doesn't make a difference. But if it's good news, what makes it different then? Oh, you see that if they relate sincerity to you. Anybody can tell me? Yeah, that's good. That's really good. How about those who said it's bad news the better indicator or predictor of a relationship quality? Anybody wants to volunteer to tell me why did they think it was the bad news? I have a microphone here. We have a microphone. Anybody wants to share? Yeah, Rahman. Is it on?
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Maybe in a good news quadrant, it's a positive. The person is experiencing a positive thing, and then you come in being in a positive state.
I see.
And being scientific about it, positive repel.
Okay.
In a bad news situation, one person in a negative state, and one person walks in a positive state. So that brings the relationship stronger that way. Yeah.
Very good analogy there. Anybody wants to share? Either one. Which one do you think it's a good indicator or predictor of the quality of the relationship? Sharing good news or sharing bad news? From you as a parent, or from how many children do we have today? How many people here are a child? Nobody. Actually, we are all children. We are all children. This is breaking the news for everybody. We are all children as long as our parents are alive. Okay? We stop being children when both of our parents die. Okay, so our role as a child continues until, this is really interesting, nobody raised their hand, which is really interesting. Like once I was in a death and dying psychology class, and the first thing that the instructor or the lecturer mentioned, he said, how many people are dying? How many people are dying? How many people are dying? Nobody, right? Nobody raised their hands. Raise your hand if if anybody dying, raise your hand. Nobody raised their hand. And here, nobody raised their hand either. Well, in the class, actually 3 ladies raised their hands. Not because they thought that they were dying eventually, but actually they did have a terminal illness. But nobody, it was a lecture, it was about, 100 people. It was a very, very big attendance. Close to 100. And only 3 that raised their hands. And we felt sorry for them. We felt really bad. But then the lecturer said, what are you guys, the rest of the class is living forever? And that's when it clicked, right? It's like we're all dying. It's just that, so we're all children until both parents die. So there's a comment from the sister.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
I think the bad news will strengthen the relationship in a way that when a person having a bad situation, so many emotions, so many negativity could impact into that person. So being positive towards that person would help much, and it strengthened not just on one side, but also the person who helped could also experience the feelings of the person who's having the bad situation, for us to even understand further, strengthen, and in a way help to build our own self for future undertaking.
So that's a stronger connection there, you feel, like
Yes.
when they kind of bring balance to the, yeah.
yes.
Very good. Jazakallah khair. Yes, Abdurrahman over here.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Just a thought. Which one is a better predictor or indicator of having a good relationships? I do believe that bad news is give a better indicator, because not everybody will share their bad news to everybody. Only good things or good news that people will share to almost everybody
Yeah.
through all these social media. Bad news sometimes only certain people that will share.
Yeah.
So that might give a better indicator about the relationship between these two people.
Very good. Jazakallah khair. Very good. Any other thoughts? The interesting thing about this question and answers, there is no right or wrong, but there's a majority. I mean, the study shows the majority. What's the most impactful? It can differ depending on the situation. I mean, it comes down to you're the best predictor of what would be best for you in a certain circumstance. But based on the study and based on the responses or respondents for the study that was done, it said that good news is a more of a predictor. Good news. And it's very much like what the brother said. It's a positive experience that you're experiencing, and you go into your spouse and they're giving you positive enforcement, positive attention. So it's positive on positive. It's a bit, I'm sorry, you said the other way. Sorry, the opposite of what the brother said. So positive on positive, not positive repel, but positive is building another positive. And that's really what is, if you have a relationship, or I mean, from our side, for example, from IPC, we work with parent-child relationship or spouses relationship, and we see if there is any hint about, the one spouse or the child would say, I talked to my parent, I did so great, but I'm not getting anything. But that gives us an indication that the relationship there is not really strong from the parent's side. The child is feeling comfortable to talk to the parent, but over and over, from many experiences, or even the adults, they talk about their past experiences with the parents. So we find that from their description, how the parents react to that experience, it's really an indicator on the positive, not necessarily on the negative. Because on the negative, they might get a positive response, a more positive response from a stranger than a family. But their family relationship is still good, because the family's positive response is really, really good. Like when I worked hard and I got a B, even though I was not get an A, but it was really meant a lot to me in my subject XYZ, whatever the subject is. My parents were there to celebrate my B, even though it was not perfect. So the experiencing the positive and relating and responding to the positive event is more impactful for the relationship. It's an indicator of the strength of the relationship. And this is a hint for those who are engaged. They're in the engagement phase of the relationship. They're just getting to know each other. If the person is not engaged positively, that's an indicator that relationship is not strong yet. They're not there. They're not engaged positively with you. They're not being authentic about the relationship, right? They maybe you maybe share bad news with them. Maybe they are empathetic with you. They show empathy, but that usually bad news fades away. I mean, you either get over it or it gets fixed. But the good news is an achievement. And if you guys attended the last one, I talked about PERMA. The PERMA A, the last one is about achievement. And that's very, very important about happiness. So the PERMA model, this is another study that is a methodology that talks about happiness. And the achievement is what makes us happy. You know, this made that child very happy about drawing an apple. The first time a child writes his or her name, it's a great achievement. Doesn't matter how they wrote it or misspelled it or how crooked the letters are. It doesn't matter. Focus on the achievement. That means a lot for the child or the person that you are interacting with. It's more important because they can share more achievements with you. Because again, that's positive achievement for themselves, and you are validating that positiveness with them. So it's positive on positive. So you are really empowering that relationship. You are strengthening it. Any comments on that? Yes, Abdurrahman. It's on. No, you just turned it off.
No, I think it's the same in the teacher-student relation.
Very good. Very good comment. Very good point. Teacher-children. Teacher-child relationship. It's very, very important. And I have interacted with teachers. We really need to invest in our teachers. Teachers, they need to invest in this kind of, to be more authentic with the children. Because that's really what makes or breaks the relationship between a child and the teacher. You find children, that they ask them, who's your favorite teacher? And they would tell you. And you ask them why. That would help you understand really what is going on with the teachers. If they don't have a favorite teacher, I suggest you drop a visit to your son's school. You really do need to do that. It doesn't matter how old your child is. If he doesn't have a favorite subject, maybe you're not a favorite teacher, but not even a favorite subject, then maybe there's something going on. There's a lot of negative experiences there. But if they say that it's favorite teacher, then ask them, what's so special about this teacher? And they would tell you, oh, they're nice. Oh, how they're nice. They do this, and when I do something, you get to have that conversation with the child. Again, doesn't matter how old the child is. We're all children, so we established that. So, the more you talk about your son's favorite teacher or favorite friend in school, also very important for us to understand how the child, how they're making friendship in school. It's very important. So that the teacher needs to be mindful about how they respond to positive, not from their perspective, but from the child's perspective. That positive news, that good news the child is bringing to them. If the child says, this is an apple, well, guess what it is this? It's an apple. And it's a beautiful apple. And it's the best apple that I've ever seen. And I love that he shared it with me, So it's very, very important for us to show that achievement as a great thing that they've done. It doesn't have to have green leaves. It doesn't have to have a table or a basket or any of that stuff. So, very good point on the teacher-child relationship. Any other comments?
Assalamualaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
If you're saying that good news is the better predictor, so that means we have to always take the authentic approach.
We have to take what? I'm sorry?
The authentic approach.
I didn't hear.
Authentic.
Authentic approach, yes.
Yeah. So fake it till you make it. Is faking not lying, or can it manifest into lying?
Okay. Very good question. Is that all? Yeah. So faking it. So faking it, I said what? If you don't have it, if you don't know how to do it, fake it, and what did I say after that? And practice. Because you do need to build that skill in you. Faking it is not lying. Faking it is not lying. In this situation, you're really not lying. You are building that relationship. You are focusing on the achievement. You're just practicing how to focus on the achievement. You're an engineer. You don't look at the achievement. You look at the problem. For example, if you're a quality auditor, you focus on what's missing, or how good is that achievement that they have achieved. It's like, oh, it's not that great. Maybe that's your nature. That's the work that you do. You've been in that environment all your life. But when it comes down to dealing with children or a relationship, you need to focus not on the how good it is or how good it looks, but you look at the relationship. You look at being positive, being engaged. That's what you need to focus on. So that doesn't come out naturally. But we do have it. It just doesn't come out naturally. If you give yourself, 20 seconds or 30 seconds, it will come out. It will come out naturally, but it doesn't come out quickly. If you thought about it, it comes out quickly. What I'm saying is that fake that authenticity until it becomes a natural thing for you. Because it is an investment that's like you're unlearning something and you're learning something new. And that's not, it's going to take a while for you to unlearn how to focus on how perfect the apple needs to be. Because you've always seen things black and white, or always felt like an apple and your child is the best. And if he's or she's going to be drawing an apple, it better be the best apple. And that you always had that because maybe you grew up like that, maybe the environment is expecting that from the child. But you need to unlearn that and learn this new authentic approach. In that process doesn't happen overnight. What I'm asking you to do from now on, if you want to invest in that relationship and strengthen that relationship, you can fake it until it becomes natural. Because that's a process that we are changing in how we are responding to news. So I hope I answered that question. You want to give her the microphone back? Give her the microphone. You have any comments on that? It's good? Yeah? Okay. So again, I'm asking, if you don't have that authentic approach naturally coming, I'm asking everybody to start investing in that. And I don't recommend just like take your time until you pick it up. I say fake it until you make it, because that's going to be the goal that you're going after. Yeah. So practice. Look at Google or do a research how to be authentic. What are the things you need to say, and say these words. You might not feel it, but you really want to. You want to have that for the child. You want the child to celebrate the achievement. So you're not really lying when you say, let's celebrate. Let's go back to that slide when we talked about the authenticity. Because it's a very, very good question, and I'm really happy that you asked that question. You see, when you say to your child, you're on the phone, right? Right? And we said that as an example, and maybe you don't know how to handle that situation. So what you need to fake, what I'm asking you to fake is that you need to, maybe that phone call is like you're getting promoted on the phone call, right? And you have an interview for a better job, for example. Anybody saw the interview when the child walks in an interview? Was that authentic? With the response from the mom, it turned out to be the mother, right? It was not the maid. I thought it was a maid, but somebody told me it was the mother. But anyway. Yeah, so you guys watch news. Come on. Was the maid? Okay, I'm confused. But that response, even from the father, he was in an interview with some, I don't know, some new CNN or something, BBC, and the child walks on the back, in the background, and the anchor or the interviewer is telling the interviewee or the expert in his home office, he's telling you, your child is walking in. He was very upset. He didn't take the child and was authentic with the child, but he could have faked it. I mean, okay, fine, you're angry, you're not happy about the fact that the child, but can you imagine the child growing up watching that clip again? I was like, he's just an innocent child walking in a room like anybody else. But he was snatched and pulled away, but I mean, it wasn't very bad, but again, it was not a soft moment. So if you were to fake something like that, if you were on the phone in an interview, you would need to show the child that what they're done, it's excellent. They come and like, look what I drew, it's an apple. And it's like, can I put you on hold for a second? Telling the person on the phone. And you give your child a genuine answer. It takes 2-3 seconds. Mommy is on the phone right now. I'll get back to you. Just give me one. This is wonderful. I want you to tell me more about it. But let me finish this call and I'll be right there with you, okay? And they just walk, or they wait. And you get back to your call. That, you might, inside you feeling like angry, the blood is gushing through your head. But it's not coming out naturally. Because it's not a really good position to be in. You want this job that you're interviewing on. And the child just walks in. So that's what I'm saying, fake it. Don't show how upset you are. Fake the response to the child. But the more you are, when I say fake it, it's really what you're doing unconsciously is like you're bringing your awareness of how important it is to the child more than ever before. So that's why I'm saying suppress the feelings or the bad things that you might have. The natural response, oh, this is not an apple, or I'm on the phone, I'm busy right now, or I'm watching the news, I'm responding to your dad, he's stuck in traffic, I need to help him out, or maybe he's stuck, or your mom is flat tire, not a good time. But instead of saying that, I'm saying fake the response to the child, make sure it is authentic, and suppress or block whatever natural that you have. That's what I'm referring to. So the more you do that, the more aware you become of how important this is to the child. And the more you're aware how important this is to the child, or your spouse, or your neighbor, or the teacher to the student, the better it becomes, or the easier it becomes as a natural response as you're doing it. Yes?
I'm coming to something maybe I shouldn't even talk about it. How does especially women recognize a psychopath?
How women recognize?
A psychopath.
A psychopath.
Yeah, but you don't need to answer it because it's a long answer.
How would a woman recognize a psychopath?
Yes, because men can, learn all this. And they can do the right things, but they don't really mean it.
Oh, okay.
But
yeah,
don't
that's
need to answer it because
maybe in the next
half an hour
session they
for you to
bring me here. Inshallah, I can maybe focus on that. Maybe another way to say it is maybe how to recognize or how to know that authenticity is genuine, right? Yeah, yeah. So the idea here I want everybody is to focus on when I say fake it. I don't say fake it and continue faking it. I'm saying fake it because you want to make that change now, but you need to work on yourself for this to become natural and genuine. And as I mentioned earlier, the more you're recognizing that you need to fake it, the more aware that you are or that you're becoming that this needs to come as natural. So you need to work on how you see it from the child's perspective, and that's when it becomes natural. Yes, brother.
I believe perhaps this interruption from your kids to give you the job. Imagine if you are in.
So repeat it so everybody can hear it.
I believe this interruption from the kids when you are on the phone with the CEO of the company or HR can give you the job. Perhaps
Very
the
good.
CEO can call you and say, unfortunately you cannot have the job, but when he hears your conversation with your son or your daughter, and say, well, perhaps
Very good.
he's
Very good
So
comment.
then he can change the mind like that, said you have the job.
Very good comment. Everybody understood it? Everybody heard it? So he's saying that interruption from the child and you addressing it positively, right? Authentic, you're being authentic with the child, could be the reason why they give you the job. Because HR values families. Like, oh, you have a child. Oh, what's his name? What's her name? And they'll be like talking about children, and maybe she starts to open up about children. It's like, oh, my child does the same thing, and it's wonderful how you address the child. That actually, you're absolutely right. If an HR is equipped with the right skills, they would realize this person is strong handling stress or stressful environment. It just, again, I'm not saying take your time to improve. I'm saying if you have to, fake it. Because it's really, really worth it for your child. It's really, really worth it for your spouse or for your neighbor until it becomes a natural thing. And don't stop at just faking it. That would be psychopathic. We're not asking you that. We're asking you to recognize the need for you to change how you respond to good news. Yes, brother. Microphone. The microphone specialist. Over here.
Assalamu alaikum again.
Walaikum salam.
I just want to extend the commentary. I mean, if I get it right about the faking it versus lying, the responses that one gives every time you are confronted with situation, whether good news or bad news, is that you immediately take a position of being a judge. You get judgmental. You know, is this a good apple or a bad apple? So, but once you are in a judging position, the skills and traits that you have acquired since you're small, all the way till now, will set the norms and the guidance of how your decision will be.
Yep.
Yeah. And then what you're saying is, all my learning for the last, I'm guessing my age now.
24 years.
Yeah, 24
It's a
years.
very good number to pick. Just always pick 24.
Probably bad habits. Bad learnings, and no guidance and all. And I'm still living in that basis of traits to decide whether that to respond in a good way or in a bad way. So I suppressed that. Judging, I became a new judge.
Yep.
A nicer judge. A more fulfilled judge. And then I said, okay, I'll behave like him for a while instead of becoming that evil devil judge.
Or judging, yeah.
And then I keep on practicing becoming this new judge, so that I'm not judgmental. I mean, the term judgmental can be negative, but I know what you're trying to say is you're not lying, but you're trying to be.
You're changing.
Changing.
Yep. You're unlearning.
Is that?
Judging way to respond,
Yeah.
and you're learning a more, authentic way to respond.
Is that?
Absolutely.
Close, yeah.
That's very good. Yeah, that's very good. Yes.
Okay, how about if the news, the person thinks it's good news, but it's actually a negative news?
Very good.
How do you respond? What's the best way to respond to that?
What do you guys think?
For example,
So
like
the child, which like a child, or what are we talking about? Give me an example.
maybe a friend,
A friend.
so he's like I did this kind of drug.
I'm marrying this woman.
Like I did this kind of
Oh, I
drugs,
did- okay,
and
okay.
it's like awesome, and it's a nice experience. So you knowing like it's something negative, what's the best way to respond to that?
Like, what's a negative experience? Like, he's doing drugs. He's starting smoking. What's the negative thing? Give me something.
Yeah, say
Drugs.
drugs.
Like, okay, man, look, he high fives his friend. Like, guess what I did last night? I did my first marijuana. And you're like, how do you handle that, right? Do you be authentic with them, or do you shut him down or squash? How would you do it? I want to hear from him. Give him the microphone. I want to hear.
A year ago, I was working in China,
Mm.
and then they came to my office visitors from the China government, and they saw name Antonio and foreigner, and blah blah blah. They invited for dinner. So what happened? I went for dinner, and alhamdulillah, just one person was talking English, the rest Chinese. And you can see all those people with 2 bottles of wine,
Mm.
but none of them knew I was Muslim.
Is what?
Wine,
Yeah. Oh, okay.
but none of them knew I was Muslim.
No.
So I saw them, and I needed to know how to explain to them, because people can take it wrong. And then, Antonio, this is wine, and blah blah blah. I said, yeah, I know it's wine. And then in that, I said to the lady, I said, please say in your way, but I'm a Muslim. I don't want to offend them.
Right.
So then she explained to them.
Yeah.
And then they start saying, oh, you don't know what you're missing, and blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. I said, okay, let me tell you something, guys. I said,
Yep.
if I met you 5 years ago, I'll tell you what kind of wine you can drink with a meal.
Yeah.
That is the difference. I said, I know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
So, in my opinion, is not what do you say to them, but is the way you say to them.
Mm.
That is my personal opinion.
So for that example, his
Mhm.
friend comes to him. It's like last night.
Mhm.
So it's not now. It's last
Mhm.
night.
Mhm. I
I smoked
had-
my first marijuana.
I said, good for you. Was good.
He would tell him, "Good for you."
Yes,
And then,
because if you attack in negative way, then he will say, who are you? It's just first time I want to try. Most of people I meet in Malaysia nowadays, everybody say, oh, I like to try Jack Daniels example. Comes to my, I just listen to them. I said, yeah. But
very
tell
good.
me the reason why you want to try.
Okay.
Then I tell the reason why you shouldn't try.
Okay.
I mean, you cannot attack them. If you tell me I just tried a hashish or whatever, you say, okay.
But
What was
based
the
on
experience?
based on what we spoke, your response is understating.
Yes, I'll support him in a certain point, which I'll come to explain to him, you shouldn't do it again.
Okay.
That is the...
Okay. Jazakallah
So-
khair. Thank you. Anybody wants to give a response? Yeah, right there.
If it's something else, maybe you want a response to this particular situation.
Right. How? Oh, you have something else.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Anybody wants to respond to this specific situation? You have a friend told you last night they did a really bad thing, or something that is un-Islamic, or something haram. How would you handle it? Nobody wants to from the back? Okay, so based on what we spoke about, so your response is understating. For him, for your friend, you're really not building that relationship. And remember what I said, for understating, what you're doing, you're making them feel unimportant. They feel bad sharing that news with you, because now you're judging them. If you want to build that relationship with them, you don't give them that answer. This is something was done. Okay, and you're saying that you want to help them in the future. To be focusing on the future, you need to focus on that relationship is strong. So what would be an authentic thing you would say to someone who committed a sin last night, that you want to make sure that relationship continues to be strong because you really want to help them? What would be something that you would say? Based on what, I mean, I have the slide up there. You would pick any of this stuff? You did great, good for you. You would come up with something different, right? But you would need to show, what are the two things that we need to show? Positive, and you need to be engaged. How would you say positive? That must have felt good, didn't it? Something like that. You feel like you have accomplished something. Is this something that you've been really wanted to do for a while? It seems like you achieved it. You're engaging with them positively. You're not saying it's good or bad. You're saying about how he experienced it. Again, him is the focus, not the action. Because if you're focusing on the action, you lost him. Because he maybe deep inside knows it's bad. And I mentioned before in the last talk, when we do sins, we're really not doing it for the sake of doing sins. And I mentioned an example of Sayyidina Adam. When Sayyidina Adam disobeyed Allah from eating the tree, right? Apple or orange or who cares, right? It's a tree. He ate the fruit from the tree or he ate from the tree, we don't know. But he disobeyed Allah for what? For the sake of disobeying? No. Did he want to really follow the shaitan? Saying? No. He was looking for what? For happiness. Your friend is maybe looking for happiness. And that's how he understood how he can get to happiness. Oh, so that made you feel happy. How do you feel now? You connect that relationship. Now we're focusing on the relationship. We're not focusing on the solution here. It's very important. Focusing on the solution, that's maybe a different session. We need to work on how to resolve this, in the long term. But you are building, he's your friend, and if you give him any of the other options or the other responses, that relationship would not be as strong. He would not come to you, because that to him is great news, and you're not sharing that great achievement with him. So next time he might not tell you what he tried next. You try to advise him, but the connection is not there, so he's not listening to you. He's already building walls. But if you want that relationship, and it's really, really important to understand this, and it's wisdom in how we implement this in da'wah, in helping people who are already doing things like you're saying. They think it's a really good thing, but it's actually bad. That's how if we don't focus on a relationship, forget about, because change in these kind of behaviors doesn't happen overnight, right? If he's, maybe he's sharing it with you for the first time, but he's been doing it for months or years, but he's sharing it with you for the first time, right? And there's wisdom also on how to protect yourself from getting into that and falling into the same track that he's in. You need to be as I mentioned, there's a session on just for da'wah on how to manage the relationship with the friends. But the essence here, if you want to focus on the relationship, and if you want to help your friend to be able to listen to you and you help them throughout, build that relationship and strengthen it. Share a good moment with him, and he or she, if you're even a sister, telling another friend of hers, a sister, telling her the same thing, he or she would tell you as a friend, I know it's haram. I know I don't feel good about that. They would tell you right off the bat. You don't have to say it. Because they were not doing it for the sake of sinning. They were doing it for the sake of searching for happiness. And wisdom and how to deal with that. Does that make sense? Does that understand? Okay, that answer. Hopefully, inshallah, I captured that. SubhanAllah, I was thinking to mention something. Yeah, there was in the US, I might have mentioned this before. A brother became a Muslim. He became a Muslim. He was not a Muslim, American, non-Muslim. Became a Muslim from a Muslim born or a person, a man, a brother was born in a Muslim family. The brother and this guy, both of them, they were smoking illegal stuff. And they were talking about Islam. And that guy became a Muslim because of that interaction. The relationship was very strong. And he was introduced to Islam in that environment. Now can you imagine someone would tell you that story? It was like, yeah, I got high and I did some bad things, and during it a person became Muslim. I was like, what? Are you still doing this stuff? He's still telling you, like, I did that last night and he became a Muslim. Can you imagine if you were to tell him, you're still doing this stuff? You do drugs? I didn't know you do drugs. I don't know. Okay, wait a minute. I don't like this. Or you say like, oh yeah, whatever. You start avoiding him. But again, for that person, I'm talking that about, it's not as an example, but actually an actual event. If he were to talk to you about it, let's assume that he knows that it's, drugs is bad, but he is happy that he invited, or he was able to help someone to see Islam in a positive sense, and that person embraced Islam in that situation. So you look at the experience, that moment, the positive moment that this person is focusing. There's a lot of negative around it, yes. And as a judging, like you were saying, if you were to judge, it's not a good environment. It's a very bad environment. But we all know that. But if you focus on the environment, you lose the relationship. You lose that connection. You won't be able to help. And maybe you are the only one who's close enough for this person to make an impact on. So then it's really important, when it comes down to friends, you need to know your gauge. If you can protect yourself from falling into that, and I'm really behind, I have a meeting at 12:30. If you see yourself, you're not going to be able to protect yourself from that environment, then you need to have that gauge very clear. But also keep that relationship strong. So keep that relationship, tell him, I cannot really help you with this, but I really would like, to help you have someone else to come and help you with this. How I can support you, moving forward. For them, they would recognize that this is a bad thing, and once they recognize it's a bad thing, then tell them you can get happiness without the substance or any of that stuff. Very good question. Any other comments or questions? Oh yeah, we have.
It's a new thing only, and you said don't concentrate on the environment, concentrate on the relationship. I appreciate very much what you're teaching here today, and I think it is very useful for all of us.
Alhamdulillah.
I just want to mention that one can get better mood in general through better nutrition, and many of us
Better nutrition.
Yes.
Yep.
So that means that automatically we get much less of these problems and insanity and problems with the mind and being irritated, angry, and all this kind of thing. We behave better, and it is of course in the Quran also that we should eat halal, not only halal but also what is tayyib, what is of very good quality.
Yes.
Then automatically we get much less problems.
And automatically
we get much less problems.
Yeah.
We get a better
the moods
and better relationships and so on, inshallah.
Okay,
I just want to
jazakallah khair.
mention.
Very good point. The nutrition and what we put in our body actually does impact our mood, our emotions. It's very, very true. A lot of studies on that as well. Jazakallah khair. That really helps also the relationship as well. And caffeine versus milk, for example, right? A quick example. Okay, I'm gonna have to stop here. I didn't realize how late it was. Jazakumullah khair. Sorry for going over time, but inshallah it was beneficial to everybody. Alhamdulillah. Subhanakallah bihamdik nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.